Okay, I think we're back together. We are now on item 4.4, the state and federal policy and advocacy update. Vice Chancellor Mattoon, take it away.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm going to try and keep this brief because the presentation I'm most looking forward to, or one of the many presentations, is coming up after me, Kuyamaka, talking about the work they're doing on math pathways. So I sent out an email last week that provided these attachments. I'll just go through a few items quickly, and I'm happy to answer questions on anything I don't mention. First, the legislature reconvened on January 3rd. About 200 new bills were introduced, a couple of dozen that affect higher education and community colleges directly. You can find those on the spreadsheet that I included, the bill matrix. We have a number of two-year bills that were carried over from last year. Actually, notice an error here. The policy committees of the legislature have until January 19th to approve two-year bills, and then by the end of January, the House of Origin will need to approve those two-year bills to send them to the other house. Gut and amends are common at this time of year, so my team will continue to keep an eye out for any new policies that come forward. I won't cover the state budget. Francis and I covered that earlier. Just briefly, a number of reports came out from the Legislative Analyst's Office over the fall. We included those in the board update items throughout the fall, so you should have access to those. But I did just want to quickly mention we had a review on the baccalaureate pilot that found that additional data is necessary before the LAO could recommend expansion of that program. They found a number of areas where we, as the Chancellor's Office, could improve on our own data collection and oversight, which we're working with them on. There's a few things where we have a bit of disagreement with some of their findings, and we're working with the LAO to make sure that we provide them any additional information that we need. But they did also make a recommendation around extending the timeline where students could enroll in the existing pilot programs. Right now, students have to complete the program by 2022-23. The recommendation in the LAO analysis is to extend it so that students must enroll by that date and then would be able to complete their program beyond that date. I expect that this will be a conversation that will be happening throughout this legislative session. And then I will just quickly highlight the other report, which I think pairs nicely with the Department of Finance recommendation for reviewing our categorical programs and where there can be additional flexibility to better support low-income students. The LAO did a similar review of higher education funding to determine if a local control funding formula type funding system made sense in higher ed. They found that for the most part, UC and CSU have flexibility in how they expend dollars. Really, that lack of flexibility is in community colleges, and that there is cause for the legislature to evaluate additional flexibility and guidance in terms of serving those populations. We have a new Senate leader who will be sworn in March, Senator Toni Atkins. I had the opportunity to work with her when she was in the Assembly. I'm really excited about the continuing collaboration that we'll have with the Senate. We had some legislator resignations over the interim. I won't say any more on that. I will mention that there's two bills that the Chancellor's Office will be sponsoring. One was approved by this board at the budget and policy presentation that Vice Chancellor Rodriguez and I gave back in September around data sharing in order to ensure that we could have data for students who flow through the K-12 system. The other relates to the efforts that we have in implementing AB 705 around ensuring that colleges can claim non-credit apportionment dollars for tutoring associated with a student who's enrolled in a credit-bearing course. So the idea here being, as we try and get more students into transfer-level math and English, they may need additional support through avenues like supervised tutoring. So can we make sure there's a way for a college to collect non-credit apportionment for those hours? That proposal was not included back in September. It will be going to consultation this Thursday, and then we'll bring it back for the board for a formal action. There's also just a number of smaller changes around reporting dates, sharing residency information that we're trying to include in the Assembly Higher Education Omnibus Bill. And then the last couple of pages on the state update just give an overview of the bills that are still that have been introduced and are pending in the legislature. Maybe I'll just highlight AB 1805 by Assemblymember Irwin, which is on page 4. This is a follow-up to AB 705 from last year, and what she's hoping to do is provide additional information to students about the assessment and placement policies of each college. It would require public disclosure so that students could potentially make decisions regarding their choices, as well as provide the Chancellor's office additional detail. I would just say on this issue, this question of what the current practices of colleges are and how we can help them move towards 705 implementation is an item that's being discussed in the implementation team. So we'll have to wait and see whether legislation is necessary in this area or if we think we can address this through board implementation of the bill. So I could pause there and see if there's any specific questions about the state update or bills that have been introduced.
Just to ask about the funding for the supervised tutoring, since it's non-credit, would it be at the regular non-credit rate or at an enhanced non-credit?
The way the proposal is, it's the regular non-credit rate.
Okay.
Regarding one of the two bills that you're championing or that our system is championing, the sharing information on transcripts with the K-12, how likely do you think that will get passed, and does your team perhaps need assistance from the Board of Governors or other entities to help push for that? Because I'm very much like to see that moving forward.
Great. We have had wonderful conversations with the Department of Education about co-sponsoring legislation. So I think from that level, we have support on both sides. We've met with the Governor's Office and the Department of Finance. The concern always is around cost of data sharing and whether or not the Department of Motor Vehicles, which is the other entity involved here, would see a cost with sharing data, and we'd have to work through those concerns with them. Certainly, if the board can be helpful as we advocate for these changes, I will reach out and ask for that help. Neutral versus support. My philosophy is that your opportunity to change a bill is better if you aren't opposing it. So we stay neutral on a bill to try and secure the changes that we think are necessary to go to a support position. And this early in the session, bills change so much, it's really hard for us to take a support until we truly know what the bill will do.
Thank you. Actually, mine is not related to the topic here, but I do have a question. I'm wondering, can we agendize the whole concept of baccalaureate degrees? It's been a while since we have heard anything about this in a while, and I know it's probably been 2.5 years since we approved it, and I'd love to hear what's happening with it and what's going on.
Great. On the federal side, at the top of the document, we just provided a quick update of the way that we were able to increase federal advocacy in this past year. In years prior to this most recent one, we were only really able to engage in federal lobbying during one visit, the National Legislative Summit. This past year, we actually were able to organize 4 separate visits to DC for various meetings with our congressional members and with the Department of Education. During one of those meetings, we had the opportunity to meet with some potential federal advocates so that we can develop a permanent and ongoing presence in Washington, D.C. advocating for our interests. Our plans are to finalize that federal advocate in the next couple of months, and then to, with that federal advocate, create an ongoing strategy for engagement at the federal level. I highlighted in the document the issues that I foresee as being priority areas for that federal advocate, the first being Higher Education Act reauthorization. The House has introduced their version of this. I included in here an analysis of what's in the current House proposal. The Senate proposal is expected to come out shortly, and there's a lot of areas of disagreement between what the House and the Senate would like to prioritize. We'll continue working with both the House and the Senate as they move forward on Higher Education Act reauthorization. The other items I mentioned here as priorities for the State Chancellor's Office, obviously continued advocacy to support our DACA students. That will continue to be a priority. We're actually working with the colleges that we expect to be at the National Legislative Summit to try and prioritize meetings with our congressional members around DACA advocacy. And then finally, I will just mention that we're continuing to monitor the negotiated rulemaking process for 2 federal regulations, one around gainful employment, for which I'm a negotiator, and the other is around student loan forgiveness when a school has closed or when students have been defrauded. We'll continue to monitor those and advocate on behalf of student interests.
Board Member Belansky.
On page 3 of the federal, in case you can say a little bit more about it, about the accreditation piece.
Yes, so the House proposal is intending to scale back the scope of what accreditors would be responsible for evaluating. Right now, there's 10 standards that these agencies have to meet, and this would change that to focus solely on student learning and educational outcomes related to the institution's mission.
Yeah, Board Member, Vice President Epstein.
Not being an expert on the Higher Education Act, can you just point out if there are any proposed changes that are in the House bill that you're particularly concerned about?
I would say I'm most concerned, before I came to the Chancellor's office, I worked for the entity that regulates for-profit colleges, and we've seen a significant amount of abuses in that sector, and I'm very concerned about what appears to be an effort to remove some federal level oversight of these programs that receive significant amount of federal student aid. Specifically the rule around state authorization, which requires colleges to have state level approval to ensure that there is that state level mechanism of oversight. And then it would eliminate gainful employment, which is really a way of just determining whether or not students have wage gains associated with the amount of debt they took on to graduate.
Anyone else? Questions? Thanks, Laura.
Thank you.
Okay, we're now on to the Vision for Success Spotlight. Cuyamaca College's Math Transformation. Executive Vice Chancellor Hope. That's what the mariposa buttons are. Okay, got it.
President Estolano, members of the board, Chancellor Oakley, it's my pleasure to introduce the Spotlight on the Vision for Success. This is a new feature that we're bringing to the board. Really, we hope that it will both educate and inspire, really in terms of looking at so many of the promising practices and the good work that's happening among our faculty, our staff, and our administration. Within this new feature, one of the things that we're trying to really address is ways that we can look at that intersection between the vision and also guided pathways, which is partly why we've invited Cuyamaca to come today. Both the vision and the Chancellor invite us to do the kind of inward interrogation of our beliefs that our practices are necessarily sound, and also to take a look at what we think our students best need. I think that inward reflection is an essential part of the Cuyamaca story, to the extent that what we often do is look at our practices from the past, like assessment and placement, and think that they are automatically right and good. And the Cuyamaca story is in large part about looking at those practices and saying, to what extent are we responsible for the kinds of equity and achievement gaps that our students experience? Because often those start at the point of assessment and placement. One of our board members, Member Avalos, talked about, what are some of the big challenges to major reform. And in addition to the things that Chancellor Oakley noted, I would also note that one of the things we need to do is not just marshal resources and not just help our colleges with regulatory reform, but help colleges find the will to reform. And I think that's also part of the Cuyamaca story that you'll hear today. There's been a rapid evolution in the philosophy around assessment and placement in the last few years. Up until very recently, there was still a really dedicated commitment to testing and skills-based testing. And one of the things that we've seen is that our assumptions about skills-based testing have been wrong. And that when we look at what it does to students, is it often really dismantles a lot of the things that they've learned from high school, and it really also indicates that the practices are about really more deficit model than capacity building. Those have huge implications for guided pathways, because if our students can't reach transfer level English and math, they don't stand a chance to transfer, and they don't stand a chance to earn that ADT. So we're trying to shift to new ways of thinking, and Cuyamaca's story represents that. To tell the story more fully, I'd like to introduce two leaders who challenge the status quo, who support scaled innovation, and also who build their practices on the fundamental belief that our students are capable of everything that we hope that they will achieve. So I'd like to introduce Katie Hearn from the California Acceleration Project and Dr. Juliana Barn from Cuyamaca College.
Thank you, President Estolano and Vice President Epstein and members of the board and Chancellor Oakley. I'm just going to give a little bit of context from a statewide perspective before we hear the incredibly powerful story of Cuyamaca College. My name's Katie Hearn, and I'm here today as a community college English instructor and also director of the California Acceleration Project, which is a statewide network of over 1,000 community college faculty across the state, all working together to increase completion among students who've been traditionally labeled underprepared. And it's been a little over 2 years since the board's basic skills retreat at Folsom Lake College. I remember a number of you were there. And at that meeting, you grappled with the sobering reality that after tens of millions of dollars in state investment, the Basic Skills Initiative had produced negligible gains in student completion. Each year, 140,000 students begin in a remedial math course in California, and more than 110,000 of them will never complete the math required for a degree. But I'm a lot more optimistic today than I was 2 years ago. Because of AB 705 and the bold leadership of Chancellor Oakley and his team, our system is poised to end remediation as usual. I want to share with you what we've learned over the last 8 years in the California Acceleration Project and how we think the Board of Governors can support powerful change going forward. CAP supports colleges like Cuyamaca to implement evidence-based reforms that increase completion and narrow equity gaps among incoming students. In the beginning of our work, we focused mainly on redesigning basic skill sequences. So, for example, combining 2 separate courses into an accelerated single semester course. And these approaches produced large increases when you compare them to traditional remediation. But we learned that they weren't enough because we were still losing way too many students to attrition in basic skill sequences. We know now that the most powerful change colleges can make is to let students begin directly in transferable college-level courses and to provide additional concurrent support for those who need it. These are the changes that AB 705 will require. In your materials, you have a publication from CAP, Up to the Challenge. It features some of the first California colleges to substantially broaden access to transfer-level courses. Some of the colleges are using students' high school grades for placement instead of relying on standardized tests. Some of them are replacing basic skills courses with co-requisite models in which students enroll directly in the transfer level with additional class time for just-in-time remediation from their instructors. At all of the colleges featured, completion increased dramatically, and students proved they were up to the challenge of rigorous college-level work. I'm thrilled that you'll be hearing from one of these colleges today. Cuyamaca faculty are transforming remediation in math, English, and ESL, and their work in math is so ambitious that CAP devoted an entire publication to describing it, called Leading the Way, also in your materials. Cuyamaca was one of the first math departments in the state to make the changes of AB 705 at full scale. They use high school grades to place students into courses, and they've replaced their traditional basic skills classes with co-requisite support at the transfer level. In the first year of implementing co-requisite models, underprepared students' completion of transfer level math increased from 10% to 67% college-wide. Their results show us what AB 705 can make possible across California. Over the next year, as we translate the law into regulations and guidelines, there will be voices insisting that one size does not fit all and that the system must protect colleges' local autonomy. And in principle, we agree with the caution against silver bullets and top-down mandates. But we urge you to keep in mind what CAP faculty have learned over the last 8 years. Requiring students to take even one remedial course reduces their chance of earning a degree. This has been established by multiple research studies in California and in other states, and it doesn't vary by demographic group, test score, or region. There's a lot of confusion and anxiety about AB 705 in the field, and we're already seeing colleges respond in ways that look very similar to what they've traditionally done. The Board of Governors and the Chancellor's Office need to provide clear, unequivocal guidance to the field about how to implement AB 705 and put in place robust mechanisms to ensure compliance. We need to safeguard students' right to enroll in courses that give them the best possible chance of achieving their dreams, the kind of courses that Cuyamaca College was courageous enough to implement and lead the way. So I'm going to hand it off to President Barnes.
I'm actually going to scooch over here and ask the two real rock stars to come on up. And that's, I have my two math faculty, dynamic math faculty here, Dr. Tammy Marshall, who is the chair of our math department at Cuyamaca College, and Ms. Terry Nichols, who is a longstanding math faculty member at Cuyamaca College. President Estolano, Vice President Epstein, Chancellor Oakley, and members of the board, I'm super honored to be here. I'm Juliana Barnes, the president from Cuyamaca College. Cuyamaca, Kumeyaay term meaning the place where the rains come from the heavens. So if you haven't visited, I hope that entices you. So I'm really happy to introduce this presentation, then I'm going to turn it over to Terry and Tammy here. And so this presentation is basically about the journey of Cuyamaca College and the decisions that we made to ensure that we annihilate what we call annihilate the equity gap. Because we cannot talk about developmental education reform without talking about students of color and the equity gap, because they go hand in hand. Because as we know, a large proportion of students of color, African American and Latinos in particular, are directed, and in my view, misdirected to developmental education based on what I consider faulty placement processes and methods. And so really developmental education reform is truly what I would consider an equity imperative. And so this will outline our journey. And you know, one of the things I do want to acknowledge is that this really is a partnership between administration, the administrative leadership, and our faculty. So I do want to acknowledge the Grossmont-Cuyamaca Community College District and my chancellor, Chancellor Miles, who's a very innovative chancellor and who really has provided her unwavering support for these efforts. So as we go through the slides, I do want to have you ensure that as you're looking at some of the data that you're seeing the students behind the data, because we're really talking about our students and their success, as we all know. So you saw some of the slides pass before you. These students are also in the booklets that you have before you. And all the students that you see in the booklet, based on the traditional use of standardized tests, were directed to take several layers of remediation before they would place in the college level. I mean, these are students who have taken calculus in some cases in high school going, what the heck happened? Students who have been out of school for a while. And again, I think we know that these tests, and if we look at the literature, we realize that the tests really do not capture student capacity. And so these students that you see before you were actually provided with that opportunity to enroll directly into college level courses using multiple measures, specifically high school GPA and coursework, with great success. And they were able then to go on and continue with their educational plans and get closer to meeting their educational outcomes. So just a little simple slide just to kind of put in perspective. Here's part of the problem. So with a large proportion of students placing at the lowest level of math, developmental math, based on, again, traditional measures, you see that only 6 out of 100 have a chance of make it to the transfer level. We're talking about completion. How could we even talk about that when we're not even allowing students to get through that pipeline of math, right? So these are things that we know. So 6 students. Cuyamaca, the same way. We saw the same kind of data at Cuyamaca College. What we were able to achieve in a short period of time, again, employing the use of multiple measures, was that we have been able to eliminate the equity gap as it relates to access to college level math. And once students enroll, we have been able to increase substantially successful course completion in math. So Prior to the implementation of the multiple measures at scale, only 10% of our students, and we're looking at ourselves in the mirror going, oh gosh, I can't believe we've been doing this. But only 10% of our students were successfully completing college level math. Once we fully employed the use of multiple measures, 67% in 1 year, successful. And we're doing studies to look at subsequent success in other courses after that. And guess what? Students are sticking around and taking additional classes, and they're well on their way to achieving their goals. I do want to turn it over, but I do want to acknowledge that these wonderful women sitting next to me have really put in, they've really dedicated their lives. You were talking about, oh, my kids are home, but that's okay because this is good work. I got to do it, But the reality is that we've had the opportunity, and they've had the opportunity to touch the lives of about 50 colleges in the state already have been able to partake in some type of training with the faculty at Cuyamaca. They deploy out, they invite folks in, they share their syllabi, they share their training with the faculty, because they basically want to spread this, and we really want to see these changes on a system level. So with that in mind, Terry and Tammy.
Okay, so I don't want to go over this slide too deeply, but I want to show you that inequity is structurally built into the system. So if you look at the bottom row, we see that students who place 3 levels below transfer, the slide that Dr. Barnes showed you, out of every 100 of those hopeful souls that come to change their lives to our system, 6 of them are getting out. And here's where the inequity is built in. Here's where I get angry. Across California, more than half of Black and Latinx students are placed at 3 levels below transfer, where they have very little hope of ever reaching their educational goals. And that is debilitating to teachers who commit their lives to trying to help teachers realize education's promise. And so based on that, discouraging data, our department decided that we had 2 choices. We could either continue to condemn students to that math pipeline of doom, to the structural inequity, or we could choose to find out how to tap into student capacity and make them promote their success and help them with a little extra support reach their educational goals. So we chose the second one. And to do that, the BSSOT, Basic Skills Student Outcome Transformation Grant, I'll talk about that in just a second, but the California Acceleration Project with Katie Hearn and Myra Snell introduced us to these 3 high leverage strategies: accelerate remediation, change placement policies, and we call them concurrent enrollment support. You probably hear co-requisite support models. So we decided to implement those 3 changes to see what would happen. And you've had a prelude to what would happen. And I kept promising our department, don't worry, we're going to have the money to do this, because they said we're going to have to train teachers. You can't just change placement policy and throw students into transfer level classes. You have to change expectations. You have to change teacher expectations. You have to change how the system runs. You have to train teachers to teach differently. You have to change student expectations. You have to change counselors' expectations. And I kept saying, don't worry, we'll have the money. Don't worry, we can do this. We'll have the money. And lo and behold, y'all came out with this grant that looked like it was written for Cuyamaca College. And we applied and got the money, and so thank you, grant. Next.
How much was it, Terry?
We got the full 1.5 million.
1.5.
We need 4 million more, so we're gonna be talking to you. Okay, all right. So we've spent it really fast in about a year and a half. So with regard to placement policies, rather than talk about this, I'd like to address something that Board Member Polensky brought up. He asked about placing with high school transcripts, and you guys also discussed getting those transcripts. We decided, what the heck, let's just roll with student-reported GPA and student self-reported success in prior math classes. And we figured that's we gave them several numbers to choose from, to your best estimate which one of these numbers was your high school GPA. And we figured that just was an indication of the student's own self-assessment. And it worked. And Tammy's going to share the data with you. We have a lot sexier data than just the 10 to 67%. So that's coming up. All right, accelerating remediation. I think this is really important. And while not directly addressed in AB 705 with regard to placement policies. This does affect placement policies. What we did at Cuyamaca is we said systems don't do optional, so we just got rid of the math pipeline of doom. We just eliminated the remedial courses. They no longer exist at Cuyamaca. Students, the longest sequence through transfer level math at Cuyamaca College is 2 semesters. The lowest placing students will go into intermediate algebra, or if they choose a pre-stats course, which we'd like to actually eliminate, or they go into a transfer level class with, we call it concurrent enrollment support, the rest of the world calls it co-requisite support. 2 semesters max, typically 1 semester. Come on, you guys. Like, woo, that's exciting. All right, next. So we presented this to the world, we got all excited, we presented it to our curriculum committee, and the resistance started. The resistance started in our district, it started in our college, and basically the resistance was stated in a comment like this. But really what that's saying is they're putting it on the student. The students can't, won't, don't. And we don't allow that at our school. We don't say that. Teachers, that part-time teachers that say that, they get trained real quick. Full-time teachers that say that, they get trained real quick. We don't talk like that. There's no special snowflake district. There's no special snowflake college. It doesn't matter what high schools the students went to. It doesn't matter what their previous experiences were. You put it, you do it right, and we will tap into their capacity and they will succeed. And so we refused to even dial into comments like this, resistance part 1. We moved ahead. We were scared because the administration we had at that time, we had a year to implement after Katie turned us on to the high leverage strategies. And we were scared because the administration at that time were saying, well, we can phase out the old system and phase in the new. You don't do optional. And then our chancellor hired Dr. Barnes. And Dr. Barnes, like, you know, we're getting ready to implement, she said, yes, let's do this. So she drew hearts and amens on this paper we wrote for her. Okay, next. So you can't just eliminate the math pipeline of doom. You cannot do these concurrent enrollment support courses tacked on to transfer level courses that put you in the classroom for 3-hour stretches at a time and get up and lecture. You have to have a complete paradigm shift in the way teaching and learning happens in the classroom. So we use these 3 strategies. I'm not going to get into the details here because Dr. Barnes warned me I have to at least try to stay at 30,000 feet. So we really did change the way we teach. It's all activity-based. Teachers teach 1-on-3 in our classrooms, not 1-on-40. You give little activities where students, you walk around watching students doing the activity, you see what remediation maybe the whole class needs or maybe just one group needs. You give that remediation to a few students and then you let it infect throughout the classroom between the students. So it's a completely different paradigm. Drop in my class anytime you're in San Diego, you have a question.
I have a question just because I'm not in educator jargony. The second bullet means nothing to me. Intentional support for the effective domain.
Yeah, that Katie
I'm an urban
convinced me of
planner,
that.
so what does that mean?
Okay, so that, the special snowflake situation. Well, students that have these issues at home or don't have transportation to school or are afraid of college or don't think they belong or the emotional issues. We work that into our curriculum to deal with that in the classroom and to connect them to support they might need. But it's all integrated into the classroom. So you're supporting students' fears, that concept of I don't belong in college. Caleb, one of the students we had up in the beginning, he was my student. He didn't think he belonged in college. And by the time he was out of my class, he knew he belonged in college. And it's just not just me. We train teachers to deal with that. And we have all kinds of lessons associated with it while they're learning math. One of the lessons Caleb really turned on to is we did some statistics around incarceration rates for Latinx. I'm still trying to learn that. I want to say Latino. Sorry.
I don't accept it yet either.
Okay, yes, it's so
go
hard
ahead,
for
say
me to
Latino.
say. Okay, so it's an effective domain activity hidden within the curriculum, or sometimes they're just straight up activities. Okay, hit. So here's what goes on in our student-centered, we call it the student-centered classroom. Really important is contextualized teaching and learning. I owe this whole slide to Katie and Myra. They trained us in this. We were in the first cohort of CAP, and they sold us on this. I'm delivered, born and new, into the craft of teaching because of what CAP gave us. Sorry. Love my career because of that. Next. Okay, so how do you get teachers? You know, my son teaches in the CSU system. CSU had that emergency call where they called them into the department and they said, okay, guess what you guys are going to do? He called me up to take care of his daughters while they went. He came home raving and ranting over what was mad. I go, Kevin, I've been telling you for 6 years this is what we're doing, you know? And he goes, it'll never work. And no, it'll never work if you continue to teach the way you teach. And so what we've developed at Cuyamaca College, again, because of CAP, is a community of practice where, and this is a lot of what BSSOT is paying for, where we train teachers to teach this way, to address the affective domain, to do the 1-on-3 teaching. We have drop-in job shadowing, the things that are on there, you can read it. But I want to say something about our community of practice. I went in a little arrogantly thinking, oh, I'm going to make all these teachers better teachers. No, they make me a better teacher. No, I have evolved immensely as a teacher from this program, and our community of practice program has evolved over the year and a half where we've implemented. So, and you guys were talking about how can this happen in 10 years? It happened for us in a year. 1 year. 1 year to build, implemented that semester 10 to 67%. Year and a half. We don't need 10 years, okay? So Tammy's up.
Thank you. I want to start by saying that this is really hard for us to sit because we're teachers. Do you know how hard this is?
Totally got you. I can't
Okay,
stand
thanks.
sitting
I
here
just
for 8
have
hours.
to acknowledge
Do you
that
want to stand
because
up and walk
I'm
around?
like-
Go ahead.
I'm like a wanderer. I pace
yeah.
when I talk. But I'm not gonna. This is a weeds kind of thing. But I just want to let you know that this is kind of thing that happens to schedules. So our schedule completely changed. Obviously, this is something we knew was going to happen. The number of sections of statistics doubled, and the number of sections of transfer level have almost doubled, and they continue to rise. And this isn't just at that first tier transfer level. We're seeing that it's increasing. The number of transfer levels even higher than that. Calculus 1 has increased. Calculus 2 has increased. All of these other things. In addition, and this is the kind of thing you can see when with AB 705. This is what's going to happen when AB 705 comes into play, is this right here. That's the idea. In addition, one of the things that happened through not necessarily anything that was being expected, but our efficiency became better. We became more efficient in the classroom. So we actually increased our FTES. We increased the number of students in our department, and we've actually decreased our FTEF, which is the full-time equivalent faculty. And part of that is the administration working with us closely to make sure that we are scheduling better. You know, that's a lot of it. And part of it is that students aren't clogging the system. They're not dropping out. They're not doing these kinds of things because they're succeeding more. So we have closed the equity gap when it comes to access. Black students, you can see the B stands for business, and then the STEM is science, technology, engineering, and math, and then statistics. We have 100% access to our statistics, either through direct access to statistics based on their information, or they can take statistics with a concurrent enrollment support class. So everybody can take statistics. Some people are required to take the support class. And then you can see that we've increased access to BSTEM. It's harder to get into those classes because it does require more algebra. You can see with our Latinx students that we've also increased that as well. So what you're seeing is the slide, the one is, you know, in 2015, one student got in 2016, it was that many more. And then with our white students as well. So we have completely closed the equity gap all the way with regards to access. But that's only part of the story. we've also almost completely closed the equity gap with success. And I'll talk about that completely in a second. But if you see what's going to happen, I love this over here. I have to work with her on an everyday basis. And you can imagine the two of us together in a department meeting, right? So you can see what has happened. So the one student that was at 3+ below is now, 14 students. The one student is now 3.5 students at 2 levels below. So this is how many, this is where they were. So what you're seeing is where the traditional pipeline, how many got through, right? So one student, if they started in the fall of 2013, by the end of 2 years, one student gets out. Compare that one student to how many got out in a year now. And what we're looking at is not that they started 3+ levels or two levels below, but that's where they would have been in a previous placement process. So we can, because of the way our placement, I won't get into the dirty woods, but because of our placement process and some of the changes that we made, we still know where the students would have previously placed, which is a blessing and a curse. The blessing is we can see, the impact that it's having on student success.
Does that mean they still take the placement test?
Yes.
Okay, that's okay.
But
It's
we're
the dirty
moving,
secret.
yeah,
Got it.
because we're a
Okay.
district, and we were
Got
the
it.
only college that was willing to change
Okay.
in our district. So, but I will tell you that that's changing. So starting next month, we're
Great.
going to full-blown multiple measures, self-reported in the entire district. So this will change. This is only going to get better. It's going to go up. And you can see those percentages. I have to really quick point out the 2 below, because it went from 19% to 70%. I mean, that's just insane when you think about that. That before, the student needed to take at least 3 semesters to get through a transfer level math class, right? And now they're doing it in a year at 70%. That just tells us what the student capacity of these students was that we were not allowing. We weren't giving them the opportunity to show us what they could do. It
Great
gives me
job.
chills.
That's
Sorry.
awesome.
It just gives me chills.
It's awesome.
And so when you look at this, we've completely closed the equity gap amongst our Latinx and white students, and we've narrowed it almost completely for our Black students, with the hope that within the next year it will slide it. Sorry. So you can see what we've done. It's really, truly amazing. We're very excited about it, and we're excited about in another year when we're able to look at completion data. And I'm going to give a little plug to your goal of the 6 year. I have been preaching for so long at my college to stop looking at 6-year data. It is ridiculous. It is not the point. We need to go to 3 years. That's been my goal all along, is a student needs to be out in 3 years. So we have only looked at, because of that in our department, we're only looking at 2 and 3 years. So of course, resistance doesn't end there. You show them the data and they go, this is great. But the other kinds of resistance we got was, okay, great, but how do they do if a student takes a class that has the prerequisite of a math class? So the story goes like this. We had a chemistry instructor who came to us because she was having trouble in one of her classes in particular. This particular class had an algebra, is a 2 levels below prerequisite, and is a class for allied health nursing majors. And those students need to take statistics. So I said, okay, great, let's have a conversation about what it is that the students need. And Terry was involved in this as well, and we said, what can we do? And we completely changed, well, I shouldn't say we completely changed. We just worked backwards. We used the backward design. I'll point again to Katie Hearn as
Reverse engineering.
It was all this. We use a backward design principle to say, what is the math that your students need to be successful? Because to be honest, when she told us what it was, we laughed and we said, that's great, that's not covered in that class. So it's great that you put that as a prerequisite, but no wonder you think the students can't be successful or aren't being successful, right? So what we did is we took the material, well, I shouldn't even say really me, it was Terry and her team in the statistics group, took the material that was needed and added that to our pre-statistics class and the co-requisite or the concurrent support course with our statistics course. And as a result, we saw that students who took our pre-statistics class went from a 55% success to an 86% success in the first time they took the course. Right. The 55% is if they took algebra, they went through the traditional pipeline, and the 86 was if they went through pre-statistics. Now, we also allow them to go through, they just added a prerequisite of the concurrent support or the co-requisite course that goes with statistics, because as you heard, we have an open enrollment to that. And so we added that same material to that course. That isn't included in this because that just started a year ago and we don't have any data on that yet. But we're looking forward to the kinds of data. You also can see the withdrawal rate went from 32% to 14%. So it's pretty amazing. That's my mic drop, as Terry puts it.
Awesome.
So,
Can I ask a quick question?
questions.
Well, let's see. You all are finished with your presentation?
Yes, we are.
So before we go to questions, that was great. Next time, that was just great. Executive Vice Chancellor Hope, we like your new feature. It's nice. It's good. And you guys got in under the wire, apparently, because your alarm just went off.
Yeah, it did.
So maybe the next time we do one of these, we'll let you guys wear a lapel mic or wireless
We can walk
mic, and
around.
you can walk around, because that's where you get your
I
energy.
was scared. I thought I can't do a presentation from a seat. No.
I know what you're talking about. Okay, so we've got a big queue. Who wants to, who has questions or comments? Okay, Belansky, Avalos. Okay, go ahead. Okay.
And I want to make this comment, and it's in the report that you provided us to read because I'm an articulation officer. And the other thing that made this work well, if that's the best way to say it, you can correct my language, is finally with the CSU system and the UC system saying that you didn't have to have intermediate algebra as the prerequisite for statistics. And when those two university systems came to the realization that what was going on in the community colleges was in fact teaching students statistics that they needed for later courses, it worked. Thank you.
Mic drop.
We had to go
Okay.
under the radar because we actually started before they came out with that.
got
So
it.
we did this little concurrent enrollment support instead of co-requisite. That's where that name came from.
Board Member Avalos.
Can we go this little question is, so at 10% you had 838 entries according to this. At 67% achievement you had 227 in count. Why the big disparity? Sorry.
Because the 10%, remember, they're going through that math pipeline of doom, so you have continued attrition. You have exit points all along. You know, they assess 3 levels below transfer. That's an exit point. You lose them before they even get in class. We suspect that's why our FTES has gone up. We're keeping them because we're putting them in transfer level. So you have attrition along the way. So with that incoming freshman, you're putting them directly into a transfer level course, you're getting 238 through instead of having the attrition as they go along. Katie, do you agree with that?
Definitely. Yes.
All right. Yeah. In other words, the 10%, there's such a low,
The sample size is larger because you're counting more failures. I think that's what you're saying.
No, the sample, I'm going to back up. I don't have the slide, the picture in front of me, and so now I know what you're talking
10 to
about.
65, 10 to 67.
Yeah. What
page
page
is
are
it
you
on?
on?
So page 3.
3.
So we just have grown that much. We're comparing to before we started our program. So the N of 838
Yeah.
is counting success and failures.
No, it's This is the traditional.
Right, what I'm saying is that N was 838 started, 10% got through.
Right.
The N of 227 started, and 67% of them completed. The difference in the sample size is with the smaller N, the traditional pipeline, we probably had attrition at assessment, and our college has been growing. We had to compare back before we started Acceleration, which was 6 years ago. So there's, that's 15, 16, so no. So I don't know what.
Well, part of it, sorry. So
Go.
a lot of it has to do with the fact of the numbers, the students that we're talking about here. So when we're looking at these particular students, what we're doing is, so in the first and the 10%, we're looking at all students who were at that level. Whereas those students with our changes, they went up, it changed. So it doesn't include the students who started in pre-statistics who might have taken our intermediate algebra. We're only looking at the students who took our transfer level with support classes the very first semester, which was a smaller N. So it didn't include the number of students that were in our pre-statistics course or our intermediate algebra with concurrent support. So those students were not included in this sample size because it's the students who were placed who would have normally placed at below transfer that were allowed to take a transfer level class.
Next question was, when you talk about resistance, who was the biggest resistor, and how did you overcome that?
Actually, one of the biggest resistor is just the systems that we use. The community college system is not set up for this model. Your enrollment system, what the IT folks had to do to make it work. Counseling wasn't set up, funding's not set up. We no longer have basic skills classes. Where are we going to get our money? Mm-hmm. Do you know, how are you guys going to fund Cuyamaca College? We don't offer those classes anymore. So resistance is the system in itself, but also your curriculum committee resists. I mean, you walk into a group of people and say, hey, we want to eliminate the math pipeline of doom and just put students directly into transfer level courses. They panic. You have to have bold administrators like Dr. Barnes who are willing to jump off that cliff with faculty who don't care because care about the ramifications. Anything's better than 4%. That 6% that everyone's talking about at Cuyamaca, it was 4% getting through. Anything's better than that. You can't, if you just took them and stuck them into a stats class, you're going to get more through than you would if you did any of those other things that, if you just put them in the pipeline of doom. So resistance came from our sister college. I'll just say that straight up. Our chancellor in our district and our college president really were the ones that made it happen,
And our board supported us immensely as well, which is really important. And we also had a lot of resistance, I'm going to be honest, from other colleges throughout the state. Colleges that just thought we were insane. And then there were colleges who, I shouldn't say colleges, there are faculty who just think everybody has to take algebra. And this is, I just had a conversation with somebody recently when they were talking about getting through math and what does it mean to be a general education and including mathematics. And I said, well, how do you define math? And that was what I asked them. I said, so if you define math as being an algebraic thinker, then you're right, what we're doing is wrong. But if you define math as more than that, could it be quantitative reasoning? Mm-hmm. Could it be statistical thinking? Or could it be algebraic? There are many ways to think about what a mathematical thinker is. And even if you look at mathematicians, we did not all, as we studied in our graduate or doctoral work, we did not all study the same thing. So somebody might have studied algebra, somebody might have studied topics, I can't think of the phrase right now, but, all kinds of things. So we didn't all study the same thing. So that was really important. And kind of when you say that, people do, but they do. There were a lot of, and there still are, people who think everybody has to go through algebra.
They don't have to factor umpteen billion polynomials to be a complete person.
One other sphere of resistance that I do want to mention, and I was quoted in the paper in San Diego as saying, Dr. Juliana Barnes, the president of Cuyamaca College, in a recent article said, quote, every student should have the opportunity to succeed, and she may as well just hand out degrees. And so there's a perception that we're watering down curriculum and that we're handing out degrees, and that's why we've invited folks to come in and see for themselves what's happening in the classroom. So there's still, again, the old paradigm in terms of kind of student capacity and kind of a lack of understanding, and it was summed up for me in a recent national math conference that I was invited to attend, where the keynote speaker, the simple title of his keynote was, is it 1957 or 2017? And he basically talked about the way we still teach math in the same way that we did in 1957, and folks still think that way. And so we still have a lot of work to do to change hearts and minds in our community as well.
Board Member Haynes, followed by Board Member Fawn. Anybody else in the queue? And Vice President Epstein.
So you may not see it, but I am just jumping up and down, screaming and yelling. And
Here, wait, I'll do it for you.
thank you, thank you. As a trustee, having brought some of this information back more than 7 years ago, and to see its results at Cuyamaca is absolutely fabulous. So there's a couple of things, and one is, did I hear you say that you're now at scale?
Yes.
You're
We
now
started at scale.
We went to scale
you right
immediately.
away.
There's no phasing in and phasing out. Systems don't do optional. We made the systems change.
Okay, so we're now in 2018, and so is that a recommendation? Well, we now have AB 705, and so it's making people do things that they may have been resistant to. What would be your advice, especially to the math folks, relative to how to make it successful?
Well, should I start?
Go ahead.
Okay, so what actually got Tammy and I started on this was CCLC's Vision 2020. 7-8 years ago, we read it, and that's, our self-esteem. I mean, it brought tears to my eyes. I'm like, yeah, I want that. So systems don't do optional, and I think you just have to, my recommendation would be, don't just partially do outcomes-based funding, do it. You are incentivizing the math pipeline of doom. Incentivize this, and it'll happen. And if you fund on momentum point attainment and milestone achievement, and I would go momentum point attainment more than milestone achievement. First 30 units completed, pantsing a transfer level math class. I have ideas on how to actually do it. You do that, they're going to chase the money. And, real quick, when their budget drops for a year, they'll figure it out and they'll do it. So, yeah, that's what I would do.
So my follow-up, did you have something else?
I was just going to say, I think there's a lot of education that also has to happen. I think STARS kind of aligned. I actually happened to, part of my focus on my doctoral studies was on developmental ed reform, and then interestingly, our math chair, same thing. And so I think there was kind of some STAR alignment that happened, but I think there has to be a lot of education. I saw for myself when we had some folks, I think 30 colleges visit Cuyamaca College not that long ago for some trainings. There were some faculty that basically said, math faculty, like, I don't believe it. And then by the end of the second day, they were writing down plans about how they were going to actually take some action, because they were really kind of digging into the data and the literature and the best practice and knew that something had to change. And I think once they see it faculty to faculty, I think they're inspired to make that change. But it really does, it's not just lip service to the collaboration between leadership and faculty. You do have to have that leadership support, because it does require technology changes to other practices. It takes your A&R, it takes the whole village to do this. So it takes the math faculty and that will and that inspiration, and then it also takes that system change at the college, and those two things to come together.
So professional development relative to the math faculty in particular is critical.
It's
That's what I'm
essential.
hearing.
Yeah,
You can't
and
do it without.
So I led a team to write our BSSOT grant, which all funded for us. Thank you very much. And I, because I'm kind of a pushy broad, and because I'm so passionate about math, they were really worried that, math would spend the full $1.5 million, and we could spend it, and we're a small college in training. right? We'll have a critical mass of teachers at some point, but all the teachers that we train, they keep getting hired full-time at other colleges. I mean, what is it?
This semester we lost 3 part-time faculty to
but
positions.
it's Miramar, like their entire department is Cuyamaca faculty trained part-timers. they're all their full-timers. So we had to promise to share the money equally between English, ESL, and math. Within the first 9 months, math was out of money. It's the training. We are writing. We want to make it sustainable, so we're writing. We've had to write some of our own books because there aren't books out for what we've done. They're up online. Any college can use them. There's colleges that are using our books. They're giving me great feedback, and I'm changing the book. But we're writing lesson plans, too detailed. I tend to talk too much, and I also tend to write too much. We're writing lesson plans on how to do intentional support for the affective domain and how to teach 1-on-3. And some of the lesson plans, the early ones say, walk over here and say this now. We have to now change those lesson plans. So we're writing materials to train faculty. We're actually then training faculty. We're accidentally getting trained ourselves. And we're spending a lot of money on that right now. And I can see us spending more. English is going to go to scale. They phased in. They'll be at scale just like math in fall of 2018. And our ESL department's doing amazing things as well. They've got the ESL program down to 6 semesters. And it's designed where students can choose to, based on their performance, they can skip a semester and they can boost up and go up. And we're having early success with that. They're going to be spending a lot of money too. Time for me to shut up.
And by the way, the link to all those lessons are totally open and available and accessible to faculty.
It's on our PowerPoint.
And you also have an acceleration in English.
Yes.
Yes.
And we're going
And
to
ESL.
scale in this fall in English as well.
But we went to scale
And
instantly.
I just have one other. You guys just jumped off the cliff.
We're cliff jumpers.
Yes.
She says we're rock
Got
stars.
it.
No, we're just
We're
cliff jumpers.
Yeah, you are.
And we jumped off the cliff in an airplane that wasn't completely built.
Yeah.
We're still building it.
The question I have is, you also said that you no longer offer basic skills. For that, I mean, you've made huge progress. There's
Right.
no question about that. But for those students that sort of don't make it, what's the recourse for them in order to stay on their pathway? What happens to them if they're not making
Well, I'll be honest, we're still working on some of those answers. But one of the things that we're doing is, first off, we've only done this for 3 semesters. So we haven't had enough students not make it yet for us to even really look at that. But we are looking at what is it that happened. So we're going to be doing some qualitative research. We're doing some focus groups. We're bringing in the RP group and some people to really take a look at, and not just our students that were successful, but our students that were not successful. And what is it that they need to do? And as you look at nationally, some of the things that they've done in Tennessee, they've done amazing work. And they will even say that, there's a lot of work they still have to do, just like we believe there's still a lot of work that we have to do. But they did some research around the students that weren't successful, like we're starting to do, and they found that students that weren't successful in the math weren't successful in college. It wasn't just the math. It tended to be that they weren't successful in college all around. We don't know that that's what happened at Cuyamaca yet. We have to find out, but it certainly begs the question, what then are we doing for our students? And how can guided pathways help us? Because we believe that that's one of the things that really can help us. And in my conversations with students, when we've said, when I've asked how clear are things and things of that sort, it's crazy. And so we believe that all of that will make a difference.
All right, professors, I got to move us along because
yeah,
we're
I
losing
know.
some of our board members here. But we have board member Fawn. Keep it brief, Mon. You've been talking on board member Vice President Epstein, right? Okay.
Actually, my questions have been answered.
Fantastic.
But I do
President
want to say
Epstein.
this. I do want to say this. As a faculty, you two are a dynamic duo. And I hear that my college, just 15 miles south of here, is hiring 2 faculty in the math department this semester. Interested in.
We love Cuyamaca.
So you guys have alluded to the financial sustainability of this and needing this extra money. But on the other hand, you said it has increased your FTES. Have you looked at what's going to make this long-term sustainable? And and especially with the additional apportionment and everything, Can this be done without a lot of targeted money?
You know, and she did mention, obviously, the additional dollars that we received through the grant really helped to really kind of serve as a catalyst to this work and supporting that work. But I'm actually working with my team right now, including my CBO, to look at some of those critical pieces that we really need to institutionalize and identify institutional ongoing dollars for the efforts. And so we do realize and want to ensure that we're supporting the effort beyond, the grant expiring. So, yeah.
I have one
And I
other
think
quick
we'll
question.
reach a critical mass.
Yeah.
It's new,
Right.
right?
So my other question concerns your butterfly pins. I have a theory
I love these pins.
that this is about caterpillars kind of crawling along and people dropping out of classes, and then the butterfly is born and everybody flies away and succeeds. Is that what it's about, or is there some other thing?
It's supporting dreamers.
Oh,
This is
I'm
this is for
sorry.
DACA.
I guess I should have known. I should have known that. Thank you.
But that's a good way to look at it as well.
Yeah. So I want to again thank you for your presentation. It was very, very inspiring and helped us. You heard me. I always talk about scale, and you guys went straight to scale. I don't think I've heard of that before. So I will come visit you. I get to San Diego a
Drop
fair
in my
amount.
class anytime. You don't need to give me a warning. Come on in.
Oh, sounds excellent.
Yeah, we have
So-
drop in.
So thank you so much. Chancellor, is there any closing comments you wanted to make?
The only thing I'd like to say is thank you to Cuyamaca for coming up here and talking about the possibilities of what the Vision for Success can do for all of our colleges. The last thing I'd say is that while there is great promise in a piece of legislation like AB 705, you cannot legislate will.
No.
And so while the system is now required to implement multiple measures, the system cannot force faculty or staff or administrators to believe. And so it really takes faculty like who you've heard today and the great work of CAP, who I think we need to continue to support and, if possible, expand our support for the great work that faculty are doing training faculty, because that is the only way a piece of legislation is going to result in change, is the people decide, the faculty decide that we're going to stop doing what we did and we're going to do something different. So thank you.
Great. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. The hour is late. I'm going to ask, actually, Ms. Gilmer to talk to us a little bit about logistics before we do board member reports. Oh, and then we have public comment. We've got a few more things to go, but go ahead, Karen.
So we have the shuttle who will pick up downstairs around 5-ish.
Okay.
Pretty much when we're done, and they'll take us straight over to the mix reception. Is anyone here not going to mix that would need a ride somewhere else? Gary?
Gary.
Do you need a ride back to the hotel, Gary? Okay. Pam, you have your own car? Okay.
I have my own car.
You have your own car? Okay. So we'll get Gary to the hotel. So everyone else, if you're going to take the shuttle's going to go to Mix. Then from there, we'll walk a block or so to dinner. And then the shuttle will take you from dinner back to the embassy.
Great.
So I don't think we'll have time to do any other hotel than Mix,
Got it.
that kind of thing. So
Thanks, Karen.
Okay.
Okay, so now we're on board member reports. Feel free to, we're just going to volunteer and see if anybody has a board member report that they would like to make at this late hour. Board member Hawkins.
Thank you, President Estolano. As we all know, it's January 2018. So therefore, a program that's near and dear to my heart is the Community College Classified Employee of the Year program. The letter will be going out shortly to the field, encouraging all 72 districts to please submit an application for a deserving classified employee. Everybody have a safe trip home. Thank you.
Thank you. Others? Board member Walker Griffin.
Okie dokie. There was something that was brought to my attention recently that some students wanted me to address to Chancellor Oakley, and it's about a student who attended Southwestern College but transferred over to UC Berkeley. Currently, right now, he's being held in an ICE detention facility out in San Diego. His name is Luis Angel Mora. I'm not going to try to slaughter his last name. Velota. Being Dominican, can't speak Spanish. That's me. But a lot of members of Congress right now have taken a stance on trying to get this guy out of the ICE detention facility strictly because he was locked up without having any papers, such as Congresswoman Barbara Lee over in Oakland, Senator Dianne Feinstein, kind of surprising, Kamala Harris, and the mayor of Berkeley. So I just wanted to see if we can get something going, maybe like a letter or something, just to try to get this guy out simply for being arrested for not having his papers. I don't think that's right. In addition to that, I attended several meetings throughout the past 60 days or so. I attended one that really stuck out to me at Laney College. It was in regards to the Oakland A's Stadium. I don't know if any of you have seen where it's been proposed. Laney College sits pretty much in downtown Oakland, and a new A's Stadium would just only create a big headache. There was probably about 200 students in attendance, which was crazy because those numbers don't happen. But I was kind of disappointed by the board's actions to not address the students during public comment. 200 students being there wanting to speak, they kept moving along with business, and public comments was at the very, very bottom. Even though students were trying to move it like up, literally creating signs stating, please move to public comment, they just went off, and then I went up there and gave my two cents about it. And one of the board members actually came down and told me I don't understand how meetings are ran. And I was talking to some students afterwards, and they were like, well, this is common. I was like, well, this is kind of crazy. So I just wanted to put that on your radar. But other than that, same old, same old. Good seeing you guys again.
Anybody else want to make any board reports? Yeah, please.
On January 29th, from 5:30 from 5 to 7:30, there will be a reception at the California State Capitol. And this reception is being sponsored by the Community College League of California for the African American Caucus Legislative Awards. And the award for excellence in higher education will go to Member Haynes.
Oh, that's great. That's wonderful. Joseph, when is that again?
I want to shout, I'll let you see this. I want to do the other shout out for the two other people. Dr. Keith Curry, who's the president at Compton, he did so much to get them reaccredited, so much hard work. And then there's a trustee from my district, Peralta Community College District, Meredith Brown, who is going to get the Trustee Leadership Award.
Great. That's fabulous. Any other board reports? I didn't get to do my president's report. I had a couple things, but one thing I did want to note, I did a tour of El Camino College with board members Walker Griffin and Iman Dalili. Iman organized it. We had it was a short visit, half a day, but it was really great. We met with some amazing students with EOP&S, the student government, Puente Project. I mean, it was a great visit. So I want to thank Superintendent and President Dina Maloney for hosting us, but also wanted to thank you for coming down, Alex. It was great to meet you all. That's my home school. Hope you liked it. It was nice. You were impressed, weren't you? Okay. Any other board reports? Okay, we're going to go to public comment at the very end of the meeting.
Okay, we have three. Richard Hansen, Jonathan Lightman, and always last but not least, Julie Bruno.
Excellent.
You can come up too, Julie.
Good afternoon, President Estolano, Chancellor, and members of the Board of Governors. I know the hour is late, and we don't want to keep you from the reception. What we wanted to alert you to is that we are nearly complete with a literature review. I'll show you the cover on the role of faculty, why full-time faculty matter, why fully supported part-time faculty matter. Just a little history. This all started with a conversation I had with the former CEO president of the League, who asked if one document contained a comprehensive literature review to cite all the studies on full and part-time faculty. And while there had been many studies, including many excellent ones done by the Academic Senate, we didn't have one that we felt was sufficiently comprehensive and that was updated. We worked with a retired faculty member, Greg Gilbert, who had been involved with the Academic Senate in a leadership capacity, who did the bulk of the work. Just to read you one sentence, the overwhelming evidence indicates that a diverse, often underprepared and economically challenged student population requires personal mentoring, counseling, and ongoing guidance in support of courses of study and personal aspirations. And it is a classical encapsulation of the complete role of faculty, how this interaction with students makes such a difference. And we heard so many comments today about the role of faculty in advancing the vision for success. And I do hope that as we conclude this study and distribute it to you, and we will also be making it available to policymakers and members of the media, that we can proceed in one voice to advancing the 75-25 goal, as well as fully supported part-time faculty. So with me is Rich Hansen, former FAC president, who did yeoman's work in terms of editing this document and has some more thoughts to share.
Some of you will remember me. I was representing FAC for some meetings and CCC for other meetings, but I retired last August. And Greg Gilbert, he retired, I believe, in 2011. He was an English instructor at Copper Mountain College, and he now is on their board of trustees. And he also served for a while on the local Unified School District Board. But Greg really did all the work on this. I did edit it quite a bit. His focus at the time, and the first draft I got was in April of 2016. I think he and also Ian Walton, another former Academic Senate president that you probably, many of you know. They both were working on this. It was originally to be strictly a literature review. It grew from that to a summary document of some of the more important aspects of, and for Greg, the focus was on full-time faculty because that's where we were focused at first. But then with some other discussions, we came to see that we had to also include and wanted to include part-time faculty. So that was really the part that I really got involved in much more, was putting the part-time faculty component in. So the crucial issue that Greg stresses is the importance of one-on-one, face-to-face interaction with students. It is so crucial. And I appreciate earlier the discussion. I did watch it. I wasn't here. I watched it on my computer, the discussion about the budget and the board's support and the chancellor's support for full-time faculty in the budget. The missing piece to that is the part-time faculty component. Often we say they need to be given or become professionalized, but they are professionals already. They need to be treated on local campuses as the professionals that they are. And they ought to be brought into the fold to provide that same face-to-face component of instruction that is so important, as you'll see if you look through the literature review. The other thing, of course, is the importance of full-time faculty to having our institutions work locally. And once again, I have to say, now I'm retired, so I'm not immediately involved in it, but there's another, and I know the Chancellor would prefer another word for this, but another initiative. This time there's the online college, and you need faculty to make all that happen. Even that online college will need to provide some sort of face-to-face component. A lot of those folks will not be able to cope with totally being online. So we look forward to getting this finished, I believe, at the FAC board meeting coming up next week, a weekend, and then we'll get copies out to you. We just didn't quite get it together to be finished enough to give it to you tonight or today, but we wanted to give you a heads up because we are going to try to use this in your advocacy and ours. I hope it'll be a mutually useful document. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon again, Cecilia Stellano, board members. Thank you. I just wanted to give you a little bit of an update for the Academic Senate. This semester's gearing up, of course, for faculty across, and we're already in classes. Lots on the radar for this semester. We have faculty diversity, part-time faculty support, open educational resources, guided pathways, AB 705 implementation. We're working with the Math Council regarding math pathways across the state of California. So we're doing a lot of professional development for faculty. I just wanted to let you know we've got 2 institutes coming up, or 1 institute in our plenary session coming up. Accreditation Institute is February 23rd and 24th. You are all welcome to attend if you'd like to come. And of course, our plenary session is April 12th and through the 14th. And again, please, we would love to have any and all of you come and join us. Cecilia was able to come with us last time, and I hope you'll be able to come again. And of course, the invitation is extended to all of you. We will have more, and so I would ask you to just take a look at the Academic Senate's calendar for our regional meetings, for our institutes, everything, and you are always more than welcome to join us and come and talk to faculty about what's important to them. So with that, I say thank you very much and have a good evening.
Thank you. Are there any other matters that board members would like to have agendized for future meetings? Yes. Okay. Yeah, you've requested that before, Board Member Sumner. Thank you for re-emphasizing that. Anything else? I'm sorry. Yeah, the 4-year baccalaureate. You'll be hearing about it. Yeah, I mean, it's not done yet, right? This is a budget proposal. So maybe report when we have some data on the, okay. Okay, great. With that, we are adjourned. See you guys in a couple of months.